Let's start our classes by looking at, since we are looking at Introduction to Biblical Counseling, let's look at the call to counseling as a specific ministry. The call to counseling as a specific biblical ministry. When we go to Exodus chapter 18, verse 19, we see a unique discussion in that place. You know that father-in-law and son-in-law, a lot of time, they don't have deep discussion. But there was this day that a father-in-law, Moses' father-in-law, came to visit him, and he watched what Moses was doing, and he made certain pronouncements. And this is what he said: Hearken unto me, hearken unto my voice. I will give you counsel. I will give you counsel, and God shall be with you. Be thou for the people to God, that thou mayest bring the curses unto God. Teach them ordinances and laws, and show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work they must do. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all season. It shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto you, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easier for yourself, and they shall bear the burden with you. Now, this is often quoted as a leadership principle stuff. But when Jethro introduced himself, he introduced it as a counseling proposition. So now we have two propositions. I will give you counsel so that you can be the representative of these people before God. Now, there's a huge principle there before we go into any other thing. It's the principle of the counselor, especially the Christian counselor, as being the representative of God. When you do the course in history of counseling, you will find out that up till maybe middle of the 1900s, the pastor's office was the counseling base for the larger part of the Western world. But in the early 1900s, certain I call them um, I call them uh, uh, prophets of of Baal, postmodern prophets. They came into the midst of the nations. They brought new philosophies. Those new philosophies began gradually to challenge the role of the pastor as a presenter of knowledge, as a teacher of truth. They began to redefine truth um, for the larger community. They began to teach us another gospel. And guess what? What happened was that the people who were leaders of the of the community began to give up. So the church withdrew from engagement with the people. They withdrew from what we see the father of Jethro's doing here. Actually, as you will see later on, some of the counselors, some of the leaders of counseling school, I am thinking right now of rational emotive therapy, Albert Ellis. They teach that you should never give advice. That when you give advice, you are wounding the people. You know, imagine if we never give advice on Sunday morning. We may talk more, a little bit more about this later. They said that for somebody to be fully evolved and free, every one of his decision has to be based on rationality and a deep engagement with his own emotion. Now, where do you see that? I have explained to you in the theology class about being in context. You cannot be except you're in context and you're in relationship. There's no you without the other. But Albert Ellis violated that philosophical proposition, and people believed him. And up to today, some people are still using him as a basis for engaging. I call them postmodern prophets. And when I use that word, I'm calling them prophets of Baal. They are not good prophets, they're bad prophets. And may God send us another Elijah. In this instance that we're looking at, the father of Moses' wife brought a counsel that allowed God to be with the people. Essentially, he brought the Emmanuel principle. You may want to write that down. He said, there's a counsel that I give. And when I give this counsel, Emmanuel will manifest. God will be among his people again. And of course, you know the end of the story. So when God is calling us into Christian counseling, he wants us to have a mental set that says, Emmanuel, God with us, that as we bring counsel to the people of God, the person that automatically becomes manifest in the process of our counseling is Emmanuel. Does this make any sense to us?
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yes, sir.
So even when you're in the church setting, even when you are in the non-church setting, I shared with you the girl that myself and my wife spent time with last Tuesday. She was weeping right in the middle of Chick-fil-A. She was weeping. She said to us, God sent you to me in Chick-fil-A Bikini. Tuesday evening, God came down. That's how God wants to read. Wednesday morning, I was in a board meeting, and this is a board that has not worked for long, and nothing was moving. And I go to the board meeting, and before allowing people to go into all kinds of rigmarole, I said, "Please, can I give you some counsel?" And by the wisdom of God, without offending anybody, we began to cut to the chassis. We began to put everybody in their place. We began to invoke structure. By the time we finished all mine, it was clear there was progress. Emmanuel became manifest. The lady who was the president of the organization, she didn't want us to, Moni and myself, to go.